Don't you ever be sad. Lean on me and I go back when the day comes and you're down.
It's her theme song. Her name is Susan Petroselli Regan, and she joins us she's been joining us every other Monday for the better part of a couple of months as she's running for governor, Republican Party. Good morning, Susan. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm very optimistic about the upcoming convention. I'm referring our talk today as the people's primary. I feel the voters are waiting. They want a primary. They want a choice. So I've got basically 10 points I'd like to cover this morning. And as you well know, I'm probably one of the most candid candidates out there. So I heard you this morning. You said that it's the right thing to do. And I think that parlays right into what I'm talking about. I have heard over and over again over the past few weeks from Republican registered voters, and actually also talked to a lot of people over the phone from quite a number of the unaffiliated and independent voters. And they said I would be more likely to vote in the general election if they could get a choice in the primary. They said, if not, I'm less likely to translate that thought into action. And that's pretty much been the same thing. Number two, Republicans in particular do not want their First Amendment rights denied. They said they've experienced this far too much. The mandation, particularly in the last 3 years, of this is what you're going to do, this is what you have to do, this is what you must do. Number three, quite clearly they want the best option candidate to change the leadership in Connecticut. All segments, including middle and lower income Democrat taxpayers, Hispanics, African Americans, small business owners, they're all suffering. Number four, in a primary there will be debates, and the candidate who brings the best game to the table, not just rhetorically, restating the challenges, but the one that the voters see as having the real strategy and actionable solutions, because it means you're leading ahead of the curve. You're actually stating and visualizing and sharing with the voters what you are going to do. And then later on, if I'm governor, I can be held accountable to that, and I'd be more than happy to do that. They want the issues we're facing, they want a formula. They want it generated from critical, rational thinking, and that's what I'm bringing to the convention. And most especially targeted to the delegates. I want the delegates to listen. I want them to think. I want them to be independent thinkers, make up their own mind, don't feel as though you are pressured into, we must have one candidate. And as a former senior marketing and sales exec from the corporate world, I can sell in the right message in the general election. And I can market it successfully to reestablish and encourage the growth of enterprise internally and from external sources outside of the state. Number seven, I would give the Republican voters something to rally around and provide hope. It would put I would say it would put some fear in the Democrats, but I would also say that it would encourage more bipartisanship because we would be working to be on the same page. And it certainly would engender independents and unaffiliated, because those guys are very jaded about this whole operation and the process. And I think that they are looking from a political venue that needs to produce a greater percentage of voters. If any Republican candidate is going to win, you have to get them from the unaffiliated group, because there are more registered Democrats than Republicans, so that's key. I also feel that I'm an unknown entity to the Democrats, and the element of surprise always wins the war. So number 9, in summary, these points translate into a primary which would provide a uniting effect, not a disuniting effect, a uniting effect. And the reason being is because the voters would feel as though they're viable participants, not just a necessary accessory to the process. They would feel as though they were part of the process. I can listen to one person, I can listen to the other person, I can then express my vote. And that unites them. Otherwise, they feel disenfranchised from the whole process. So my final point is, and then I'm welcome to any questions you want to ask me, Lee, but I want people to know they can see me at table 21. And I believe, based on the delegates I've spoken to recently over the phone and in person, I think I've made a serious impression with them as to the benefit of having me in the primary picture, which would actually help the party in stating a plan of action now and not waiting for January 2023. We need to get our plan of action now, not say I'm going to do this and then you don't know how you're going to do it, but when I finally get there, I'll figure it out. So that's my pump stump statements, and I'm open to questions either from listeners that you have or from you, Lee. Okay. I can't clear it anymore. Can't state it any more clearly than that.
Well, listen, if somebody wants to jump in and give us a quick call, 860-464-9490, you may have a question or a comment for Susan Petrocelli-Regan, and I'd be more than happy to put you up and on the air. My one question to start off with would be,
yes,
it's an interesting theory about let's say the Republican disenfranchised voters. You think that the Republicans would be turned off if they weren't given an option in the primary to the point where they wouldn't vote in the general?
Whenever that subject comes up in my discussions with them, yes, not all of them. I have to be honest. That's it's not a blanket statement, but generally speaking, they do want a choice. It's particularly after they've heard me speak, because sometimes, obviously, my opponent has had more visibility. Sometimes, certainly not. You've been very gracious, but other media or written or published or online or whatever, some of them have made a serious concentration on making sure my name was not mentioned. And of course, you don't have the name recognition, and so they think there's only one person running and so forth. But then they hear me, whether it was at an RTC event or specifically some fundraising thing, and then they go, gee whiz, wow, boy, I really like your message. Gee, now I could have a choice. That'd be great, because, to tell you the truth, maybe I wouldn't vote otherwise unless I have a choice. So yes, I'm hearing that over and over and over and over. And what I want to accentuate here is my plan and solution will be at the convention, the first chapter of it. It's called the Reagan Doctrine and Reaganomics, and that's an S on the end with a $sign. So I have my first chapter. People will be able to see that, and then obviously if I make it into the primary, next chapter would come. It would be very evident as to where we are going. It would be open and accountable, and truth and transparency will win. And when they see someone who actually has a plan that they can hang their hat on, they can rally around it and say, we're on our way. Republicans are in charge. They're leading ahead of the curve. That's my message.
Okay, but because the general public does not have that quote unquote plan, that doctrine that you have out, because
they can come, and then more of it'll come out on the air. The more I'm interviewed, the more
but my point is, I just so folks can understand and follow along, because what you're talking about Friday is a message to the delegates. The people out there who are listening to us right now are voters, right? There's not a lot of them, some delegates, I'm sure, but you need to convince 15% of the delegates that you're the way to go. So you're going to give them a taste of your doctrine on Friday.
That's it. You got it. That's it.
Is that like a speech? Is that a speech they're going to let you give, or is it table to table?
No, it's an actual piece of paper.
Okay.
They can take it home, and I guess some people might plagliarize it. I have no idea. But
well, copyright that.
No. Yeah, copyright. Well, I've signed the document. Yeah. You know how you have the big presidential thing, signing of the bill, so I've signed it, and what I'm hoping is it will give hope, and that this person who wishes to be governor is for we the people, and here's a plan, and you can hold me accountable for it, and good. Yeah. I hope they do.
Right.
After a year in office, I want to have a 360, and I want to hear from the people and tell me how it's going.
So I often get on the air and I blame the people listening to us right now for the state that we're in, because it's actually the voter who puts people back in. And I do that sort of tongue in cheek, because most of the people listening to us right now are conservative minded or Republican minded folks. So I'm saying that in jest, sort of, but not really. But I guess the point is here is that this is one of these issues and times where the folks listening to us right now are not going to have, the weight of the world on their shoulders at this point in time. It's the delegates that are listening right now. It's up to them. You have to convince them. It's the regular, average, everyday person, the lunch pail guy going to work right now. He's just in a wait, or she's just in a wait and see attitude or mode. And when Friday comes and goes, they'll know then whether they got a choice, right?
That's essentially it. Apparently by 8:30, 9 o'clock at night on Friday, we should know. And it couldn't be more clear that it would unite the party if the voters are included in this process. But if they're mandated, look, it's like, the bidding that Lamont's been doing. He had one bid rigging going on. We're going to use this company, and that's the end of it under my executive orders. The voters are feeling that they're pressured into, how come I don't have it? Actually, Lee, what's wrong with a primary? I want to know what is wrong with it. What's wrong with having, I can listen to this person, I can listen to that person, I can make a choice. I don't like this one, I do like that one, I can, what would be wrong with a primary? I don't understand.
No, I think in a general sense, primaries are great. I guess the only question I would have to ask is if the system that's in place now, if it doesn't reward you in the end, is it the system that's broken in this case? And is it the system that needs to change? Because, and I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody, but, so far it seems like everybody's playing by the setted rules that the Republican Party has put out there, right?
Well, theoretically, it plays to the rules that benefit them because they can, force and mitigate and, they can do what they want. Now, supposedly people have said we would need to change the charter so that it works, that you have people, they come up, they debate, they stand in front of the TV, they're asked questions, and then it narrows down. It usually narrows down.
Let me just interrupt you for a second. How would you like to see it be different then? From what it is now, what would you like to see be different?
Well, I think you can have a convention. I think, and right along, I think, personally myself, I wouldn't mind seeing debates as you move through the process of visiting RTCs and so forth. Every now and then, have a debate. You start to get the flavor of the people and how they react, because it's all well and good to have an interview on the radio. You're by yourself. You're asked a couple of questions. Okay, fine. People rattle off, I'm pro this and I'm pro that and I'll support this. And the people go, okay, but how do I know you'll really do it when you're in office? But if you're debating, there's actually one person against the other, so we could have debate. But I think the whole thing should come from the voters themselves. They are the ones on which the taxes are going to be levied, particularly the unfunded ones, and that is what is destroying our state. We must have hired the wrong people. So it's a little like buying a car, Lee. You go, you have to drive the car, you have to see how it feels, then you got to try another car, see how that compares. Do you go to a dealership and go, I'm going to ride in one car and make that decision based on that?
Right. No, I understand what you're saying. So I'm trying to get the grasp and the scope of how it would look.
Right.
If you were in charge then of the process, you would then how would you determine the winner of the endorsed candidate? How would that come to pass?
Okay, all right. So let's just say you got more of a flavor. Maybe somebody assumes candidate 1, candidate 2 will agree to a debate. So you get a debate there. Maybe you get, depending on how many people are running.
Right.
And then you could have another debate and so forth, because there are a lot of months leading up to this. Then there could be assigned a certain percentage. If a person doesn't make whatever it is, 2% of the votes, if people maybe you could do it online. We're going back to now Secretary of State. Let's make sure the ballots are right. But let's just say we could be fair, and a certain percentage of votes come in. And if you make at least 2%, you get to go on to the next debate. If you don't make it, then you're a dropout. Maybe you can still do the petition process. I don't know if everybody out there knows about the petition process, and then narrow it down to the final 2 or 3. It's difficult for me to sit here and say exactly how it would work because we have to change a charter. There's Robert's Rules of Order or Mason's Rules of Order, however they operate. But it could be reformulated so that the people, the voters, are more involved in the process rather than hand it over, here's what happened, and that's the end of it. And I just keep asking the question, what's wrong with a primary? Okay, so somebody has to work a little harder, and somebody has to go out on the road again. Well, I'm fine. And if I don't win, then so be it. It's fine with me. I don't have a problem. I'm not afraid of a primary at all. Truthfully, I think it would be great. I enjoy it immensely, but, maybe some people don't like it because they don't want any competition. Which is unfortunate.
One of our listeners wants me to ask you how you'll plan on getting established Republicans behind you in the end.
Well, yes, I agree. Established Republicans are pretty much party line voters. I think there are a lot of things involved, and again, as I've said before, I'm very candid. What happens is there are a lot of promises made behind the curtains. A lot of people, if you do this, if you support me, then I can do that, and I can what, and so forth and so on. And, yeah, a lot of deals are made. I'm not making deals with anybody. The only thing I'm doing is bringing some hope and a message to anybody. I haven't promised anybody anything. There are not going to be commissions assigned and people are going to get certain posts. No. It all rests on me to earn what I believe I have the integrity that the voters need, the truth and transparency, and that's what I'm riding on. I'm not riding on buying my way into this thing. I am earning my way into this thing. And if the voters don't pick me, well, that's fine. But gosh, give me a chance. Just give me a chance. Let's have a primary. Let's have the delegates be fair. Let them think about very carefully what they do with that vote, because that vote is going to be the future of the taxpayers in this state and the future fiscally and the quality of life for everybody. And so they must take that and no matter what's been said to them, promised to them, guaranteed to them, threatened by them maybe in some cases. I've actually heard a couple of people say, not threatened, let me take that word away, but encouraged very strongly that it would be a good idea if you did this. And just wipe that all away and vote based on the taxpayers having a choice.
All right, Susan. I'm sorry, go ahead. If you want to.
Yeah. No, that's it. Table 21. Please, delegates, come to my table. Ask me the questions. I will give you chapter 1 of my Reagan doctrine and my Reaganomics, and it will give you a flavor of what I'm about.
All right. I'll see you on Friday. I'll be there for a while.
You got it.
All right.
Oh, please.
Yes.
Do come. Take a picture, and so forth.
Okay. Done deal. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
Susan4CT2022.com.
All right. You have a good day. Thanks,
All right.
Susan. All right. And we'll catch up with her on Friday.